All right, we're gonna call the General Government Committee meeting to order.
And it'll be funny.
Okay, our meeting is in order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make that.
We got that.
Second.
All right, second, is there any discussion on the agenda? Not all's in favor? Aye. Carries. How about our minutes from our November 4th meeting? Second. Any discussion on the minutes? Not in favor? Aye. Anyone has any conflicts of interest, any matters on the agenda, let us know when we get to that item. Is there any public comment?
Public comments.
Okay. We have any information from supervisors not seated as committee members?
You want me to?
However you're comfortable.
Like, comfortable just about anyway. Brad Olson, I just am here to urge this committee and the county board to consider 5 million as a maximum for spending on the government center here. I think we have enough funds in areas that's responsible. I understand the theory of, borrowing a lot because interest is cheap. I guess I want you to just consider, do you go home and borrow money because it's cheap if you've got it sitting there? I think $5 million is a reasonable number to look at borrowing for this project. Thank you for your time.
Any other supervisors have comments that aren't seated as committee members? Okay. Are there any announcements? Announcements and committee information. I've seen this on all of our agendas. We've had done. I don't even know why it's on here.
This is your agenda.
Okay, well, then we should get that off.
Okay.
If there are any, we'll get them a different way. So number 7 be gone. All right, how about a review approval, authorization to sign West Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board? Tony.
Yeah, this was a letter, and Supervisor Duncanson asked that it be put on here. I think because it came, workforce development, we've all heard of that here. I know I've attended several meetings in the past. Chris, I know you've attended. Their goal is to help people in Polk County find employment, match them up with businesses and companies. Workforce development, we are part of a consortium of 9 counties in this area, which a long time ago was designated by the governor. The purpose is for this unit of counties to receive federal funds to support workforce development efforts. And so every few years, we get this request to say, are we signing up for this again? It is possible for us to say, no, we don't want to do this. We want to do it ourselves, but then we have to battle with the federal government and the state to get enough funds coming our way. So I think I was ready to sign it. I think Mrs. Duncanson was ready to sign it, but we thought it would be wise to just let you guys know about it. If you have any questions or concerns, it doesn't cost us anything other than time. And Fran is our representative.
Make a recommendation that you sign the, and authorize you to sign the Wisconsin Workforce.
To make an
That's a motion. That's what you're looking for.
Second. You need any more discussion on it?
Question for is anyone, our legal counsel review that, or
Yes.
Because there were a lot of typos in it. Hastily typed out or whatever.
It wasn't prepared by the county staff that I'm aware of, the staff at the DWD. It was given to Leah and Joe to review.
So,
Or was it being renewed? I read the wording as being amended, but there was some red ink on my copy, but
Here, I understand it's a renewal, but there were a couple items that were changed from prior agreements. But it's also my understanding it's not anything that would impact us.
All right, we're gonna call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? We're gonna have a discussion regarding the ARPA fund project.
What else wants to?
That's supposed to be, I thought we were keeping all those at county board. I don't know why we're talking about it here in general government. But that was the agreement that did be done at Cal.
I think our intent is to have it discussed in Cal, but it's been the habit now of every committee talking about different types of projects that are important to them so that people are prepared to discuss it there. That's the way it's evolved. We all have, thing that will happen at the upcoming board meeting is we're scheduled to discuss Ms. Kelly's resolution. As you recall, deals with the microwave radio system, the new tower down in Taylor's Falls, the roof on the Justice Center, and the museum bell tower. If I can summarize what is happening with the committees and with people that I've talked to, seems to be some consensus around the microwave and the new tower. There are competing interests for the last two projects. Things that have bubbled up as a priority to date have been the LiDAR coming out of, that's the technology to look at the three-dimensional of water and land and so on. And then the second thing was, help me.
the rough.
Well, that's already in there. This
And a command center.
command center,
LiDAR, Clayton.
LiDAR, yeah. Public safety, what they have. That was,
And posting the roof.
yeah. So anyway, the point being, the challenge for you all as supervisors is you're going to debate. Wait a minute, I thought our process was kind of put all this stuff back and do a bubble or a dot exercise and decide what's important. However, we are getting consensus around those two things, and there are a couple of things that are time sensitive. The microwave tower system, which is about $1 million or $1,000,001, we've held off for several months now. Potentially next year, we think it will go up in price. So if we can get this approved, we'll get that price. That's not holding a gun to anybody's head. I'm just telling you, that's kind of what they're telling us. The other thing that's time sensitive is we've applied for a grant for the LiDAR with several other counties, 10 or so, and it's been approved. It will cost us about $132,000. Now, if we don't do it this year and decide to buy it next year, that would almost more than double in price. So there are a couple of time sensitive things, and at the Cal, I think Ms. Kelly's resolution will be up for debate and it may be amended. So that's Reader's Digest version.
Got one question then. When do you expect that there'll be more funds?
The second tranche is in late May if it comes. And then probably March or April, the book should be close to the point that I'll be able to let you know if it can be recaptured as lost revenue from 2020.
So can we just put that in the minutes that that's when we expect the next wave of money if we're gonna get it, we'll know it then.
They may,
All right, anyone else have a comment regarding the ARPA fund project? Up. On to a resolution. 5121.
So this is not a resolution, this is not the resolution authorizing the borrowing. This is a resolution that amends the 2022 operating budget. In the 2022 budget, we set 7.7 million as the budgeted line for the facility update. The pretty solid number appears to be 8.2 million. So what this resolution does is the budget's passed, it amends the 2022 budget to alter the 7.7 million in that budget line to 8.2 million for the tracking of the cost of the facility.
It's not how much we're gonna borrow.
Now, the borrowing notes and all will come at the board meeting on the 21st. And for clarification, you know, I've been meeting with the lawyers and the finance people, but we will be right before the 21st before we got the notes and the resolutions ready. That's why you do not have the borrowing resolution or notes right now, okay? It's just too short of a time frame. We're working.
You know,
So how much time are we gonna have to review the borrowing, the debate on the borrowing? Are we gonna just only debate that purely at the county board? Because you're gonna ask us to make a decision quick?
So and this is something else that came up in my meeting yesterday. When Bremer looked at it with council, and then we all talked about it with PMA yesterday, the event will happen in actually 2 issuances. So banks are only allowed to do direct lending. A bank the size of Bremer can only do direct lending up to $10 million per annum per client. So they can, the plan is to bring the refinancing for approval in December for the existing debt. And then there'll be a
Bring it
second
to where?
to county board.
You're gonna ask at the county board to refinance the old debt.
And honestly, Mr. Chair, 3 weeks, it just takes a while to prep this stuff. We're working on it every day, but then the second issuance, the new debt, will not come to the county board until January 18th because it has to be in the new calendar year and it has to be 15 days after the previous borrowing for banking rules.
The refinancing only on the outstanding debt?
Yes.
So now what if for some reason we don't borrow what Bremer said, 8 million, and we said whatever, a different number, is that gonna change their refinancing?
No. So the way this note is going to work is this is essentially it's a note, but you got to look at it as a credit line. So it's a credit line up to 8.2 million. We can draw once a month for 12 months. We can begin drawing February 1st, 2022, do our last draw before January 31st, 2023. We only draw the amount of money we want to draw from the 8.2 million. So what you'll be doing, what you'll be asked to do is authorize the note for potentially 8.2 million. But then we only have to draw the amount you decide to borrow from the note by February 2020.
No, but my question was, the money in December, the old debt, they're gonna refinance it for you.
Right.
It has nothing to do with us, our line of credit in January.
They're taking a little bit of a leap of faith.
That's my question. So if in January we don't authorize that, they've already committed to refinancing that debt.
Once that issuance is signed, they've committed.
So then if it follows up, then my question is, so does this change anything with our refinancing or anything we're doing by the end of the year, that it's possible that we may not be financing the full 8 million? So if our board says, so you're getting approval line of credit, but our board only says 5 million.
Bremer's well aware of that, and they said that the interest rate at 2.1 will hold for whatever we borrow.
Whatever the number is.
Yes.
$10 million limit applies to anything they're lending to the,
It applies to the customer, yes.
so what was our current balance on the?
It's 7.2 right now. So if you put the two together, it's 15.4, so they can't do it in 1 year.
Do it, or they can do 10 million per year,
10 million per year.
so they could have more than 10 million outstanding.
Exactly.
December,
So
January.
it has to be in different calendar years though, and you have to have 15 days from the time of the acceptance of the first issuance until the bank can do a second issue. It's just one of their, it's a direct placement. It's a banking law regarding direct placement.
I go back to the question then at the county board. So general government, you're asking us to approve a refinance today?
No, because the refinance, the note and the resolution are not ready. The lawyers are working. The bond lawyers do that stuff.
The resolution is only to amend the 2022 budget
For the
to
construction
allow
budget?
it to borrow.
Yeah.
Not even to borrow, it's just for the construction note. For what the construction project's gonna cost.
Right. It's, for example, in 2021, we actually had 5.9 million budgeted for the facility, and we didn't use any of it. It's just that it has to be in the budget in the event you guys decide, okay, start in 2022, the line has to be there.
We're looking for resolution 6121 in our packet here.
Yes, sir. It's the packet I handed you right there. It should be the top
Should be
resolution.
there on the
This
floor.
one?
Should be there.
Maybe I should, maybe helpful if I read the resolution. Whereas the Polk County Board of Supervisors passed Resolution 5621 on November 9th, 2021, authorizing the 2022 Polk County operating capital budget. And whereas the resolution passed, budgeted a total of 7.7 million for the planned update to the Polk County Government Center. And whereas at the special county board meeting held on November 30th, 2021, the information presented set the estimated cost of the facility updated to 8.2 million. Whereas the 2022 Polk County operating capital budget must be amended to reflect the estimated anticipated cost. Now therefore be it resolved, the Polk County Board of Supervisors directs the county administrator or his designee to amend the 2022 Polk County operating capital budget to reflect an additional $500,000 in the Government Center Update Fund in order to be sum sufficient to cover the estimated cost of the project. Be it further resolved, the Polk County Board of Supervisors authorizes the county administrator in conjunction with the general government director to make any technical amendments to the 2022 Polk County operating capital budget as may be needed to amend the budget in accordance with this purpose.
Have a motion to approve. I'll make that motion.
Does it take a 2/3?
It does, it's an amendment, so we'll take 2/3.
All right, any more discussion on the motion?
Back to Mr. Olson earlier, but I understand there's still going to be
Right, it just, it sets the line as what was presented at the total estimated cost if you. And that's my recommendation is you set the line at that total cost. You don't have to spend it all, but if you set the line less than that and then you add something, then we got to amend again and again and again. And I would like to keep the budget amendments minimal. Cost.
Let's try to have the main discussion on the amount of funds we're gonna borrow in that held at the county board. Ours is just to get this to allow amending the budget.
What is?
All those in
Yeah,
favor?
Mo's got a
Right.
question.
Just have one question. The 8.2, if the board decided to put the full generator capacity for the whole building on the project. The information provided to the board was that would add another 175,000. The projects, you're looking at closer to 8.5 on there. So with Chad's comment, I didn't know if you wanted to have that flexibility or address that at another time.
I would say another time.
I
would agree with that.
Sure.
All right, we're gonna call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we need to review policy and recommendation on financial and personnel policy.
So in your packet, you have a sheet that I summarized the policy changes. It's a one-page sheet. I summarized the policy changes. You've also got the policy, but the sheet looks like this. At the top, it says December 21, 2021, recommended changes to financial policies, and then also personnel policies. So let's do the financial policies first. And this is really the largest topic for the General Government Committee to consider. And we've got Joe Loso on WebEx because Joe and I kind of do the risk management for the county. So section 6.03 on page 19 of the financial policy. In the past, we have not established in policy what the minimum required insurance levels are for vendors for the various insurances. A few years back, Maggie Wickery started doing risk management kind of on her own, saying, you know, this looks too risky. I think they need to have this level of insurance. We don't actually have a risk management policy set in place regarding insurance. For context, the county carries a $10 million policy. We carry that's our level. So I reached out to, we have 3 different brokers, insurance brokers. Each of them handles a different insurance, but they're versed in the whole field. I reached out to all 3 of our brokers, the one that handles our workers' comp, the one that handles our liability, the one that handles our property. And I asked them, please send me recommendations, what you think, based on the county's exposure, our limits should be for general liability, our limits should be for workers' comp, and our limits should be for automobile. And they each replied. Now with insurance, it's entity-based. If any of us goes to State Farm, we're all going to get a different rate. Our homeowners insurance or for our car insurance, because it's based on the entity, so there's not a one-size-fits-all. So we got a number of recommendations back. Joe, please chime in, Joe, attended a conference. It happened to be during this same time we were pulling this together, where he got risk management advice for counties regarding this. So in front of you, in section 6.03, you'll see regarding our certificate of insurance, the writing in black is what our policy used to be. Red is what's been added.
Let me get to that. Where's that at? What
Page
page?
19 on your financial policies. And section 6.0.
For certificate of insurance, I can see it. Yes, sir.
Just ask, where are those documents? Are they online or can we get a copy or can I get one to look at while you're doing this too?
The insurance companies.
No, what you're looking at.
Oh, yeah, I can give you one, yeah.
This packet doesn't have all these resolutions and stuff in here. Is it online or not? One of our customer service things we better look at.
Are you on the committee?
No, but it's a public committee, isn't it?
I
We
know.
should have
We'll
that.
get you one.
Okay, but is this whole packet online? I looked and I couldn't find some of the stuff.
Not this one, probably.
That one isn't.
That is
Okay,
not.
but now it's a public meeting. All right. So Malia, does that count?
Yeah.
Malia, how does that count as an open meeting? I'm just asking Malia.
No, but we're in the middle of a meeting here.
Well, is it, but can you have the meeting if this stuff isn't published? Is it a legal open meeting to be doing these discussions without being on the agenda or advertised?
It is on the agenda. The packet materials do not have to be
They don't have to be to the public.
All right, let's,
Then-
hold on, we're not debating this.
No.
Where were we?
Okay, certificate of insurance. So here is where the quandary's been, and I talked at length with Maggie about this. We had the kind of this general operating guideline we operated under. And then we'd have vendors that didn't have insurance or didn't want to carry that level. And the former policy said it could be waived at the discretion of my position. The problem with that is then I assume all the risk for the county. And if we get a claim for $3 million and I've said, no, you don't need insurance, what have I based that on? So we had meetings based on the information we got from the insurance company. And what we're asking is a baseline guidance from general government and then the county board. What should our minimum requirements be? Because then when we do risk assessment and management, we have something to go by if we allow a deviation.
I got a question for you, Chad. First off, to ask a bunch of county board supervisors what we think should be a minimum, I mean, that's what you get paid for.
Right.
So to ask us now to do your job, to decide what that risk level should be, I think is totally not under our, and I'll leave it at that. Now, my concern with these levels are, you want to hire a local painter, I'll just use that guy as an example. You need one office painted or a door painted. You're gonna require me have this kind of level of insurance to come in and paint a door jam?
Well, let me give you the background on it to your point. So what we did is we gathered the information from our brokers, went to the 3 different brokers. We met, we all went through and reviewed it. Then Joe did the legal review on it based on the conference Joe went to.
That doesn't answer my question.
Well, so in here is our,
That's- What you're doing right there, Chad, is you're circling like an insurance company does that wants to charge us more. So I want the question answered. So a local painter doing a $150 job here, you're gonna hire it out. Are you saying you're gonna require this kind of level of insurance?
I'm
That's
saying,
what you're saying.
I'm saying this is our recommendation.
Okay. So Chair, I would like to postpone this because I think we need to have a lot more discussion about this than to be asked today to approve this. Because there is no way,
Well,
I'm-
at least let him give you the background.
I've already heard the background, I've heard
Yeah.
enough of it already.
But I don't know that everybody else has on the committee.
Well, don't tell me what to do.
I'm just saying, right now is the opportunity for him to
You're legal
explain why
counsel,
we-
we're not asking our opinion right now, Leah.
All right, let's settle down a little bit here.
I think this is out of line for you guys to come to us and to throw this at us and say, make a decision on this right now.
We're not making a decision on it right now. This is,
Yeah, they were asking for it.
it's a review policy and recommendation. So we'll be making, this committee will be making recommendations to the county board.
Sure.
We're not making any decisions here today.
And then in December, after recommendations, December, it comes back around with resolutions that adopts these
And
policies.
that's when it actually.
Or in January, I'm sorry. In January, you come with resolutions that adopts these policies.
So for right now, you're just giving us your recommendation.
Right.
What we do with it from there is up to us.
Hey, Chair, personally, I'd like to, and I know this is probably something Mike and I both agree on, is to get this thrown at us today to say we're gonna work on this. Let us have a chance to look at this stuff. Like Supervisor O'Connell said, it wasn't even presented, it's not, no one knows about this. These are big things. Why don't we have a chance to look at it before we come to a meeting and say, hey, here's our recommendation?
There will be no action taken by this committee or the board till January to adopt this. This is like the first rollout. Here's what we came up with. This is our recommendation for the policy.
There's a lot of red lines in this.
All right, well, why don't,
Just one comment. Hold on. I looked at this pile over here, and I don't know how many. But we really need to get these sort of things with the board back. That far up.
we're not voting on any. All you're gonna get
No, I'm
now,
making a comment though that
because I know you are, Mike, but I mean, what this is our opportunity to let them explain to us this information. We'll take it from here. No decisions made till January. We'll have plenty of time to read over and digest it. If we don't want Chad to give us any update on this, we just skip right to the next item on the agenda. And then we'll get no rationale for the recommendations. Is that what we want?
Chair, I just, when something shows up as a resolution,
Not a resolution. This is number 11.
well, this is review
It's a
policy
review
and
policy.
recommendations on financial. and personal
These are
policy.
recommendations coming from staff.
There's no resolutions till
Do we want
January.
rationale to them or not? Just yea or nay? If we don't, we're moving on. Otherwise, we're gonna allow them to give us their rationale.
Yeah, whatever you want, Chair.
Well, it's whatever the committee wants. Want Chad to go through these or not?
It's been nice to maybe have some of this. I
Well,
understand that's not always possible.
all today's meeting is to give out the information and explain the back work we did. And then in January, after you guys have had the month to review, in January, you discuss and decide if you want to change any of it, because that's when the resolutions come forward to adopt.
I thought I heard you say we need your guys, I'm making these recommendations, I need you guys to give us your approval to move this forward. That's what I.
No, sir, the approval will come in January. I mean, I think now, I mean, it's good.
I'm fine with you making a rec, I'm fine with going through it and hearing why these changes are.
Okay. So the agreement from all of our carriers and from Joe and from me is Wisconsin has a statutory minimum for workers' comp. It's not an option. It's when workers' comp's required. When it's not, there's a test that we apply to see if a vendor is required to have workers' comp. If they fail the test, then they have to have workers' comp. They have to pass the test in all respects to be absolved. So the state required minimum is 100, 300, 100. 100,000 per injury, 300 for disease per employee,
Page are you on again, Chad?
the page 19, the 6.03. And 100,000 disease, so 131. Wisconsin, from what the carriers have advised, has very good statutory restrictions on workers' comp claims. So they feel that if you require the statutory minimum, you don't necessarily need to go above that because of our tort law. So that's our recommendation is the statutory minimum.
You asked, though, the simple question I have, what about hiring a guy to come in here and do something for $500? What was their response?
Well, so here's where the test comes in. It depends on what kind of entity they are. Are they a sole proprietor? Are they a partnership? Are they a partnership
What was
between spouses?
what was the answer?
You have to apply the test.
Okay, so apply the test, the one I used the example, the painter come in, he's doing a $200 job for you.
I would have,
Require this?
I would have to know if he's a sole
So
proprietor.
let's say he's a sole proprietor.
No, he doesn't have to have workers' comp.
Okay, I'm not talking workman's comp, I'm talking all the levels. I know he doesn't need work comp, but what about the liability?
The liability, and Joe, please step in here if I speak wrong. Our carriers went from 1 million, 2 million, 1 million per claim, 2 million aggregate, to 1 million, 5 million were the recommendation. And then Joe's recommendation was 1 million, 3 million. So in general, we should require liability because if we don't, then it's automatically on the county's insurance policy. So, I mean, Joe, you want to step in on this one?
Yeah, and so, I apologize, Chris.
Okay, Chair, my question though, you're not answering my question. I know you guys have to do the test on whether someone's got work comp. My question is the level of your requirement for these small little companies that do work here, that the level of where you guys are picking these numbers out of the hat at, based on whoever you call and Joe, it just seems like you guys, just my first glance is not to test whether a guy needs workman's comp. It's the question is, if he's doing a $200 door jam, are you going to require him a $1 million liability policy to paint your door jam in here? Because what you do by policy like this is not only the big guys are going to come in and work for the county. That's what you're doing on all the little projects. And you need a park bench painted. Now, the little guy around the corner can't go paint a park bench. You gotta hire the union painter company. That's what I get cranked up about when I see government do this kind of stuff, where you raise the bar so high, when you have the authority to just say, fine, let the guy go paint the park bench. We got plenty of insurance to cover a claim. Now you are making the decision to put the onus on that little guy. For one job he's got to work for the county on, he's got to come up with that kind of money to go paint a park bench or a door jamb. That's what my concerns are. And you haven't answered the question. Did you ask that specific question?
I asked, what should our general liability insurance be from the county's standpoint?
Sure.
And
Not
that,
on the size of the job. You just said anyone walking in here doing something. You didn't put it in context of an $8 million job or a $200 job.
Joe, this is where I'm probably gonna need your help to explain, you know, the difference. It's not the size of the job, it's the exposure for the county. Can you step in on this one?
Sure. And again, if I may, so the problem becomes that what you're talking about, Chris, is obviously understandably a smaller job, sure, costs the county less money up front. But if something were to go wrong, if that person completing that, installing that $5 part burns the building down through their negligence somehow, now the county is on the hook for a $10 million building because the person hired to install a $5 part was negligent. That's where we are looking at risk and exposure. I understand the argument. The problem becomes our job is to protect the county's assets and do the best we can to try to do that. These policies that we're putting forward are trying to make sure that we as the county aren't wasting taxpayer money and protecting that money by requiring those service providers to carry more insurance. We then don't have to pay as much money for our insurance, and we limit our risk, because as we limit our risk, that insurance company is going to decrease the amount that we have to pay. And so ultimately, the size of the job is irrelevant. It comes down to the risk of the job, because we could be buying a $10 million machine, hypothetically, and the person we're buying it from is just placing it outside. That may have less risk than someone coming in and doing a $100 job and working on the furnace, and the furnace may burn the building down. That's the comparison. So
I know, Joe, as an attorney, that's how you have to look at the world. But I'm just telling you that why don't we trust, the way policy was? I go back to this again. I get it. You're worried about liability. Well, someone can throw a cigarette at a customer walking in here with no insurance, could walk in our building, throw a cigarette, or start a fire in a bathroom. You're going to ask everyone that comes in this building to have a liability policy to protect us? I mean, is that how concerned attorneys are and staff is? And there is a level of common sense to this. A guy working on a fire protection system versus the guy cleaning the carpet, and I know you have staff doing it, but I can think of a lot of things over the years. And I've said it enough. I think you're totally off basis on this. And you guys are barking up a tree that I think is costing the taxpayers more money, and you're hurting the little guys in the county to do little small projects for the county. And I'll just leave it at that.
So I guess the question is, without framework or guidance, what are we left with to assess risk when we get a vendor? If a vendor comes to us and says, we're doing the job, we have no insurance, do we let them through?
Would never let anyone do work without having insurance.
Okay, so I don't let them through, so then I say,
Did anyone ask that?
so then I let them through. How much do I let them through at?
That's what you get paid for to decide that.
All right, Chad, you've decided.
You
You
decide.
guys decided how much feel we need. So let's just leave it there.
I'll leave it there. I've said my.
Leave it there and move on to the, what do you got on page 29?
Page 29 reflects what seemed to be a general consensus from both this committee and the board, adjusting the fund balance from 20% reserve to 40% reserve. Right. And page 36, it's just a technical one regarding accounting. We have a capitalization threshold for the county of $5,000, but the nursing home is $1,000, and that was not in there before. And just as I was reviewing the policy, as I learned the county, there's things I learned that are missing. That's just an addition to identify that capitalization threshold. It just has to be in the financial policies.
Okay, how about the personnel policy?
Personnel, page 3, section 103C. We had a statement about diversity fell under my responsibilities, but I added equity and inclusion just because this is an important national topic down to the local level and it needs to be taken into account. So it's just a restatement of my duties. Page 4, section 103, D, E, and F. We had never defined division director or standalone department head. So it's just adding those definitions to it. Again, just something I found missing. Page 7, I replaced regular full-time with benefit eligible for the longevity because we actually offer longevity at a prorated rate to regular part-time benefit eligible employees. So it's just a clarification piece. And then page 14, once again, it's just we hadn't incorporated division director throughout our policies. It's a miss when I did it last year. So I incorporated division director or standalone to the verbiage.
All right, so we'll see these back again in January and that brings us to resolution 6521. We could probably do a 6721. It's a resolution to ratify the labor field service.
Yes, sir. So yesterday afternoon, we finalized language with the unions. And I got an email this morning that the unions are ready to sign the contract on the regarding pay. They were given the two options. They went with start, step 1 and step 2, 2% increase in 2022 and 2023. And step 3, 4, 5, and 6, a 3% increase in 22 and 23. The sergeants also, it's standard that they get 10% more than a deputy. They also had that 2% for 2022. So they have TA'd off on everything that we TA'd off in negotiations. The resolutions do allow the standard language that's been in previous resolutions for myself, the chief deputy, and the county administrator, corporation counsel to tweak, any technical language. But the unions are ready to sign as of this morning, once the board reviews on December 21st. We'll be able to.
All right, we should get a motion with a recommendation probably to approve these two resolutions.
Together or separate?
Mike?
Second.
Can't really do too much.
I would like to make a comment because I'm not going to vote to support them, but it's not voting to support them, Chair, because I don't agree that we agreed to it, but I feel like we shorted them on the offer. I just wanted to make that the reason I'm not supporting the resolutions. Much?
No.
That's why I'm voting against the resolutions. It's because I don't think we pay the cops enough.
All right, we got a motion to recommend to the county board these two resolutions. All in favor?
Right.
Resolution 6421. To amend the 2021 operating capital budget, allocate tax deed sale profits to debt payment.
So Supervisor Olson made me aware last week that back in 2017, there was a resolution passed that if tax deed sale properties, the profit exceeds $100,000 in an annum, anything over $100,000 is prepaid against the existing 2017 general obligation debt. So in 2021, we've made $262,003.42 in profit on tax deed sales. So this resolution takes $162,003.42 of that and prepays it against the existing $7.2 million debt. Now, the resolution's got interest and all in there. I need to explain what we had to do. Working with PMA and the bank, yesterday on our meeting, we calculated the per diem interest until we sign and close the note. Right now, we're scheduled to make this payment on the 27th of December. So that interest payment is adjusted through December 27th. If we're not ready by that date, you'll see be it further resolved, it allows the administrator in conjunction with me to adjust the interest payment in order to satisfy that prepayment, because we'll have to pay prepayment from December 1st when we made our annual payment through the day that we do this. As we were working through this the past few days, our bonding agent recommended that we pay it in $5,000 blocks. So I'm also asking for approval to take $1,293.41 that exists in our debt service fund, so I can make a balanced $150,000 prepayment on the principal. Because you got to take the interest off, and then that makes it $150,000 plus interest. This will be prepaid prior to closing of the refinance, and we addressed that with Bremer yesterday, and we worked through all the interest and all that yesterday. Thank you to Supervisor Olson, because otherwise I would have never known about a 2017 resolution.
All right, can we get a motion to on this? Or second? Further discussion? Not all those in favor? Resolution 6621, resolution that sets the ownership of the Clam Falls Dam.
Okay, this is for you to review at the board meeting, but conditions that you set for the transfer are being met. We've relabeled the description of the land. We surveyed it. They are preparing a quick claim deed as we speak. The blank there for the escrow account as of today is $573,861. It should stay close to that. There might be a couple of thousand down for some legal fees that they're paying. That should not be too much. And once the quick claim deed gets signed, we'll file it with the deeds office. I got to get back to the DNR to say we accept ownership of this. They've already approved the transfer of that. The one thing that has surprised me, a good surprise, is you notice, I think it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th, whereas the DNR has a matching grant of $1 million. That used to be $400,000. No guarantee we get that, but it does suggest that, that we are applying for that grant, and, which helps us if the cost to repair the dam goes over the 2 million level.
2 million we have.
2 million is from the state.
We have
It's
it.
in their budget. They haven't given it to us yet, right?
We'll have to get ownership.
Yeah.
But it has been appropriated in the budget biennial.
I see a survey of the actual parcel that you guys are referencing on these sections, because I know there was a lot of discussion about what we're actually getting from them. Could I see that document?
I don't have that. Do you want to?
What we did is we did the title search for those 3 lots. And then wrote new legal description.
I just want to see the mapping of it,
Yeah,
your GIS map. or
we
something.
have that. We haven't
Give it.
gone out and surveyed it yet, though.
I don't need the survey, I just like to see the map
Yep.
of their ownership.
There's 3 lots total, but only 2 of the 3 lots are part of.
So you're not asking us to make a recommendation on this today?
Oh, this is, we're sending this to county board.
Yeah, can someone show me that map before we approve this?
Pull it up.
Pull it
You want
up.
to pull it
Yeah.
back to it?
We're just either gonna recommend it.
I know, I can't recommend it if I don't know what I know Northwestern owned more property around there, and I just wanted to see what they own, because they were told we would get all that property. And I just want to see if there's been some change in
Withholding.
Yeah, there's 2 lots. It's dam property and then another vacant lot.
how many acres is that in total?
We pull it up.
All right, while he's pulling that up, we don't have a motion on the floor, so we can talk about our 2022 committee work plan draft. Or something we need to add to our work plan?
No, I think our work plan's pretty, outside agencies and all that, we've established all that process pretty well now.
And is there some subject matters for our next committee meeting that anybody would like to get on? Want to talk about it all? Didn't we, well, we seen it once, didn't we, the map? Property?
I don't know that I've seen the map. I went on and looked at it, and I know that Northwestern owns multiple pieces of property. When we first started discussing this issue, Northwestern was going to give us those parcels. I just want to make sure everything that Northwestern owns there, they're giving it to us.
Yeah, I don't think they ever said they're going to give us all their parcels.
They might not have, but I remember we talked about that. Because with Balsam Lake, I use that as an example. When Northwestern gave the dam to the village of Balsam Lake, there was 4 other parcels scattered around the mill pond on the creek. And the villages used those to develop a park system out of it. So my commitment to this project was these parcels of land that Northwestern owns around this dam and around the lake, they always had it for access to the lake and had access to the dam. If they're gonna make us take the dam, then give us all their parcels.
Access to.
And we can have those parcels. So if someone's pulling back on that discussion, I want to know about it, because I don't support the project unless they give us all their parcels.
Their lawyer, this is their saying, their lawyer said that because these lands are in a trust, they could not pull them out, some of the property. So the one other third property that we were looking at, they said, we're not able to sort that out. Doesn't mean we
Is
can't
that
go
true,
back.
Malia? If something's in a trust, you can't remove it from a,
Depends upon the terms of it.
you ever review the trust? Sure.
Like to hear just a little bit more on these conditions that Johnson, $2 million, which has been approved in the budget bill. Is that, do I recall that we were told that is a reimbursement after we had spent the money?
Is that a reimbursement, Chad?
That's my
I think it is.
That's
So
my
like if we only
understanding.
spent 1.8, we don't get the extra 200,000.
My understanding from talking with them is it's a
I'm
reimbursement.
just sort of assessing some of the risks that I had in my mind, there, that presumably there could be some governmental action taken at the state level to counter me.
Budget already passed.
Yeah.
So
They've committed to us.
Well, the budget can be changed just like we can change it.
It might be difficult at the state.
The town of Clam Falls, have they entered into an intergovernmental agreement, or is it been approved, or what steps have to be taken for that to happen?
Yes, Mr. Olson is here, but the town of Clam Falls did vote to contribute, I think, between them and the Lake Owners Association, what was it, 20,000 a year?
Where do we stand vis-a-vis an
Something more substantial than a motion? Is that what you're thinking, Mike?
Well, my concern is I think there are risks on all of these that they may or may not happen. And I don't know at what point we start spending money on those risks have been minimized.
Bob, you're searching there, but
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak for the town. Brad's here. Are you applying a special assessment, townwide or just the repairing owners?
Special assessment on the, I think it's 24 properties. Would bring in $10,000. Town is an intergovernmental agreement, to pay $10,000. Town side, I think so. It's a total of $20,000 a year.
Ask Mike, do we have a contract or do we have
Well,
something in writing?
yeah, I just, what stage we're at on all these. I guess on that, I'm presuming that the town board cannot commit to future years.
yeah, they could stop. Not going to pay anymore, I suppose.
And, DNR matching grant. DNR has to sort through applications for
Right.
Right.
We submit
72
that by
counties or whatever.
March 4th.
March 4th, we submit it. It has increased substantially the amount of money. We haven't gotten this grant before. They did increase the amount of money.
All right, did you find our parcels of
I
land?
did, yeah.
All right, Chris, here's what. So
look,
there's a
start out-
parcel they're not including.
So yeah, these are the two parcels.
Can you zoom up on them,
I
please?
sure can. This is the actual dam site. This is just under 7.5 acres. This lot we exempted out. A lot of the, when we were doing the title search, a lot of the deed work was nearly 100 years old. There was quite a bunch of work in terms of the identification and collection of
So
all
when you
these.
say exempted out, who owns that parcel?
Joanne Elliott.
Okay, so it's not Northwestern.
No, so
Oh,
this
that's
is, because, over time,
I just want to see the Northwestern property.
okay, so it's this one,
Yeah.
Chris. This is also part of the transaction. This is roughly 4 acres. Granted, most of it's in water. We measured that out. It's really only about.
That's one identified in the resolution parcels?
Yes, sir. And then this, is the third parcel, in which is not part of the transaction. This is the one that's in the trust that, that REC has. That's the 10 acres across from Moody's there.
Why is that not being just prime? The only reason is was a legal formality. I would make a recommendation here today that that's not good enough. That someone has a legal formality with being in a trust. I would ask our corporation counsel to review that trust. And if there's a way that that can be removed from the trust, that should go with this deal. And is there another parcel?
Those are the three. When we cleaned it all up, there were multiples, but it's down to 3 because obviously.
I'm just showing past history on Balsam Lake. They gave us all the parcels. They never had that, oh, that's in a trust. We're going to keep that one piece.
Yeah, there was a real need to clean up these titles, so we've done that.
Understand.
And so now it's to these 3.
I understand. It should be 4. That one should be going with this project.
But we're probably not ready to send this to.
I wouldn't vote to send it, but I mean, it's up to the committee.
We don't even have a motion yet,
Sure.
anything with it. I mean, if we want to table it to the next, Leah, can you have that research by our next meeting?
If they give me the trust.
If they
Never
give
mind,
you
they'd be
the,
asking for that.
They could refuse and then we'd have to come back and say.
right. Let's try to pay attention to what Leah's saying here, 'cause otherwise she's gonna have to say it again. She's saying they don't necessarily have to give her trust even review.
Well, the original intent when we started this is they said we would give you the land we owned along with the dam on the flowage.
How long ago was that, Chris?
It was 2, 3 years ago when they first came in here, and started talking to us about owning this, that they would give us the land they had and the dam. They wanted us
Do
to
you
take
think we
ownership.
have that in any of our minutes or anything?
We weren't probably recording back then because it was pre-COVID.
No, but we still should have had. I mean, some offers that they made us, some counter offers we made them, I mean.
And the fact that there's multiple pieces of property, again, the last time they did this, these properties on the mill pond, they're not even on the mill pond, somewhere down river from there. And they gave the village all those parcels.
We don't have anything with them yet, do we? Well, any contract that says that we're bound to anything yet? Well, maybe we just tell them
Now,
to.
go ahead, bring that up about the weight. I mean, that's a good question.
Well, Chris's point, I can recognize that the county can take advantage of that additional parcel from a value standpoint, that makes sense. But let's not let that stop the project. I mean, that is not connected. It's not contiguous with what we've got going to save the dam. So do we want to really bring that back in and make that a condition and throw out the whole dam project, which is not what we're here for? Here to save the dam, preserve that water source.
Unless they're pulled back. on
I agree,
the
but I
original.
don't think it's bad to approach them with it. I just would hate to see it stop the progress.
Does this stop the progress? Well, yeah, why do they want it?
There's some value to this.
I know there's a lot of value to that. And we are the county is taking a big risk on, and I stepped up from the very beginning and said I would do this if you gave us your parcels of land with the dam.
And so is this parcel, I don't mean to be interrupting here. This has changed since the original agreement that they'd offered us, that this parcel was pulled off?
They never identified what parcels they own. They just said, hey, we own some land. We own some land around the dam downstream. You guys could make a park. And we own some parcels around the area. And I went in saying, all right, as long as we get all the land like we did in Balsam Lake, because that we had a debate with Supervisor Masters at the time. And we compared the two kind of transactions like side by side. And now that I find out that all the parcels are not part of this identification on your resolution, I'm not going to vote to support the project unless they put it all in there. And I would be very surprised that they legally cannot pull that out of the trust.
I just have a couple of questions just for clarification. So, do we have written legal documents in place?
What?
With the power company? Or do we only?
No, they have applied to the DNR. The DNR has approved the transfer. So we are under verbal emails, that type of thing.
It's kind of a handshake type of.
Not even a handshake yet. Our plan was to do this if all the conditions were satisfactory.
What we need to bring back to them is the condition that isn't satisfactory is that parcel of land has been removed
They should
from the
have
original
no
discussion.
interest in having a piece of property there, not owning the dam anymore.
If it wasn't done with.
Okay, sorry.
The other question I have is, I understand the board and Plant House had made motions. Is there a legal document in place that is an agreement, anything other than a motion? Because someday there may not.
Fran, I got a hard time hearing you with the mask.
I was just asking if there was anything other than a motion and minutes in place, because over the course of time, board members change or staff changes, either here or there. It is good to have a written agreement other than just
And
a motion.
a
and-
resolution passed by Plant Paul. You're right. That's what we don't have that.
That was the questions I had.
Would it be an MOU?
Under 66, intergovernmental.
why wouldn't we just have that part of the condition too, is that we would require an MOU in place before we finalize this guy?
Right, because the intent of that special assessment is to pay for the operating and maintenance costs.
Right.
That was their gesture.
Sure.
I will say, you know, through the title work and the title search, I'm pretty confident Northwest Electric didn't even actually know exactly what they did own. That's
I'm
where
okay
we
with
took it
that.
on, yeah.
Just tell them what we need.
So we've actually updated all these parcels
Sure.
with new legal descriptions that,
Including that one?
including that one. Yes,
Okay.
we have.
Did you hit the full report once?
I think,
What's it valued at?
click on that one for the full report.
We're not gonna have a value because it's.
But is the ownership the same name on that as it is on the other parcels?
They are now, yeah. These haven't been updated because we haven't.
Is not listed as a trust.
I think the history, if IT could look back, I think Northwest came to Dana with the first proposal for the county to take over the dam. I want to say it went possibly once the county board at that time, if I remember. So there might be something in the documents for IT to do some research on, look back.
They had sent a letter.
Here's a
A letter or
simple,
something,
here's
yeah.
a simple amendment I would make to this, or however the right process would be, is just add that legal description to this agreement. Yeah,
That land.
that land description to this agreement. And that's our,
what's going forward. And if
they want to
that
try to,
isn't what's included, then it's up.
I would definitely I definitely would change my vote. Because the agreement was, is we'd get all the land they owned on Clam Falls there, and that flowage in that area, wherever the parcels were, has the same agreement they did with the village of Balsam Lake when they took over the dam. When they wanted out of that one, they did the same transaction.
I do have one.
And to include the MOU in that same,
Got a little more information.
And the one other piece, just not that anybody wants to hear from me about risk or insurance.
well, it's just me, Chad, that didn't want to hear
But,
from you.
as you guys recall, insurance was a piece of this, and we spent a lot of time, myself and the brokers, we went through the regular market and the excess and surplus markets. Nobody, including our present property and liability insurers, will insure for property insurance. So one company that would insure for liability is the company that Northwest Electric had for it. So once the board said, okay, administrators start wrapping this up, I asked for a binder and official quote. Because we wanted to try to stay the target dollar, about $16,000. Just to be aware, the general aggregate for the liability is 2 million. Each occurrence is 1 million. That's something for the board to consider. You know, is that enough insurance for you? We can try to go out again. Our broker said maybe we can get 5 million. It's going to cost us a lot more. He doubts we could get the 10 million that we carry on everything.
That is one of my concerns, as we were talking earlier in this committee meeting about the limits of insurance, but 2 million doesn't go very far up the dam.
Again, that is the kind of guidance, you know, what does the committee think is sufficient? Why I'm informing the committee. It's $15,965.
All right, so do we want to put this, we're gonna put this on next month's agenda, or what are we gonna do?
Question is.
I think it'd be better to come from our committee. If the committee is supportive of that position that I'm asking for, that,
That section of
we don't
land
bring it-
be added to this whereas.
yeah, I wouldn't put it on the county board agenda right now as the way it's written right now personally, unless the committee said it had to go on the board agenda. I, as the chair, I'm not going to put it on the agenda.
Question for Malia. I have the DNR acceptance of okay the transfer and they ask for it within 30 days, our response. This is something that I can say our intention is to, but we won't know.
That we're still working out.
Yeah.
Let's reach out together to the DNR. Because you have another,
We under any time constraints here yet?
well,
That's
that's
what
we
I
need
was
to
just
find out
bringing
with
up.
DNR.
But I
My
gotta
guess is
believe
they would still
Yeah.
continue to approve the transfer.
And maybe it's just a matter, I can go back and say the intention is to, but we don't have it finalized yet. May or may not happen.
With that other piece added to the legal description? Chris is talking about adding that 10 acres.
I don't think that would
Somewhere else.
impact the DNR.
We could just simply add that parcel ID number to the resolution for that third parcel. And we could continue to work with the DNR because that dam transfer permit is valid for 30 days.
So if we, are we allowed in this committee to add that parcel to this resolution?
Just continue in the interim, continue to stay on task, but in the interim, negotiate with.
As long as that could come to the county board and that's on the agenda, that parcel's on this, then I have no problem putting on the agenda.
Isn't this our resolution? It's no one's resolution that.
Right, you can amend it here.
We can amend it here?
It's ours.
So Chair, I would like to amend it to add that parcel along with the MOU requirement. And I would, and the recommendation would be to send it to the county board with those amendments added.
Second that.
You want to understand what we're doing? Favor?
Discussion, if we might.
To send it, or motion to send it to the county board with or without a recommendation.
With the recommendation, with
With the
that, with the
recommendation.
amendments added.
And the MOU.
And the MOU requirement, like you, Fran, wanted
Yeah,
there.
Mike?
My comment, coming back on the insurance, I think that is inadequate coverage to take on this sort of risk.
So does the committee want me to go out again, even if it costs more, and what level do you want me to seek out?
My question would be is, like you did with the last comments we had, you went out and talked to people and you came up with a determination of what you think our insurance should be. On this one, is there a recommendation on what the insurance should be?
I can specifically say, based on county, what would your recommendation be?
Yes.
Okay. The constraint before was, we want to keep the cost in this realm. What can we get?
I think what Mike wants to know is let's look at the option of what your recommendation would be, just like you're doing with the painter on the door jamb.
I can absolutely do that.
Sorry, yeah.
I can absolutely do that. Doesn't bother me.
All right, any other comments on the motion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have a closed session. I think we've talked about our work plan, we talked about subject matters for the next meeting, so we got it. After the closed session, the only item we have left is adjournment. So, someone get us into closed session under 19.851G.
You leave Joe in, be a panelist.
Can you leave Joe in as a panelist? So, Chad, can you leave Joe in as a
Business
panelist?
can stay in it.
Yes, we can.
All right, do we got a motion to go into
I
closed
think you
session?
guys want to stay in it
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
if you want, if you have a few more minutes.
Is there a second?
Second. Let me make sure I lock this.
Might learn some.
All right, we got a roll call vote. Right? Closed session. Okay.
Okay.
Closed. In closed session. Supervisor, do you think it's stay? Carries. To get a door or two open.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We live? Hold on, we're live. We get a second? Favor? And 0 at 11:24.
Steve's a good guy.